And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much as you're doing the job that we've entrusted them.
I did. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23. Yeah. I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like minutes.
Hi, it's Eileen. Every now and then, a single movie project sparks debates across Hollywood, from representation to respecting classic storytelling. Disney's upcoming live-action Snow White might just be that movie. The decision to cast Rachel Zegler set off a wave of controversy, fan outrage, and endless online speculation that, at this point, feels bigger than the film itself. Could this become one of Disney's biggest fiascos in recent years? Let's dive into how one actress and a series of public missteps have turned a beloved fairy tale into a cultural battleground. When Disney announced Rachel Zegler as the star of the Snow White remake, they framed it as a groundbreaking decision, a bold step to bring this classic story into a more inclusive era. Fans had mixed reactions. Some celebrated Disney's progressive casting, while others worried this might shift too far from the 1937 original. But just like living in a country dedicated to technology, either way, Rachel Zegler created a buzz that was impossible to ignore. At first, the excitement felt fresh and promising, but things quickly started to shift. While Rachel presented a confident persona at red carpet events, cracks began to show. Blows fiddle.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank you when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere. She's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
Occasionally, Rachel's social media posts began raising eyebrows. While some critics pointed out her sometimes combative tone with followers, most fans shrugged it off as youthful passion. After all, the real test would come when Rachel stepped into the role of Disney's very first feature-length animated princess. Oh, little did anyone know just how challenging that test would become. Even before filming went full steam, Rachel's social media presence took a turn that unsettled a significant portion of Disney's audience. At one point, she brazenly announced that anyone not supporting a specific political figure could simply unfollow. And now, it's not unusual for Hollywood stars to voice political opinions, but this particular comment landed like a ton of bricks on Disney's core demographic. Family-friendly icons are often expected to walk a fine line when it comes to hot-button issues. For many Disney fans, the brand represents nostalgia, escapism, and unity, not division. Rachel's polarizing stance made it feel like she was drawing a line in the sand, with me or against me. From that moment on, you could almost see the cracks forming in what had once been an excited fan base. People who might have overlooked minor missteps began paying closer attention, waiting for the next controversy. And it didn't take long for one to arrive. To rewind a bit, Rachel Zegler's breakout role in West Side Story was met with critical acclaim. Her performance was praised, and fans admired her incredible singing talent. She was on a trajectory to become one of Hollywood's rising stars.
Like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag.
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my god, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
However, behind Rachel's polished persona, there were subtle signs that fame might not be met with humility. Not long after the release of West Side Story, she publicly lamented not being invited to the 94th Academy Awards, even though the film was nominated in multiple categories. Instead of addressing the situation privately or with grace, Rachel took to social media with a dramatic post about staying home in sweatpants. What started as a personal comment quickly turned into a heated online debate about entitlement. By the time Disney miraculously secured her a spot at the event, many were already questioning if this pattern of public airing of grievances would follow her into future roles. In hindsight, that question feels almost prophetic. Take, for example, her comments about needing a job when discussing her part in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Instead of coming across as relatable, it rubbed many fans the wrong way. For some, it signaled a growing pattern. Rachel's statements often seemed to veer into territory that alienated parts of her audience whenever the spotlight was on her. Meanwhile, Disney was charging full steam ahead with its Snow White reimagining, which for many already felt like it might stray too far from the beloved charm of the 1937 original. But little did the public know just how drastically it would diverge.
One where he was in the boxing ring.
Boxing ring, and Howard Cosell, who was then a famous announcer for ABC Sports, introduced him. And I was asked at some point to get Mr. Sinatra Listerine. We're at Madison Square Garden. It's not like there's a Listerine store at Madison Square Garden. So I dutifully ran out and found a drugstore of some sort. This is before CBS. This is 45 years ago.
Even with Disney's intention to modernize Snow White, many fans assumed the creative team would show deep respect for the iconic 1937 classic. After all, it's not just another animated story. It's the cornerstone of Disney's global empire. But Rachel Zegler's comments on the original tale sent shockwaves through the fan base. She openly criticized the vintage story, calling it outdated and admitting she'd only watched it once because it frightened her as a child. For many longtime Disney enthusiasts, this was the moment the magic died. How could someone do justice to such a beloved character while dismissing the narrative that introduced her to the world? Rachel's remarks quickly made headlines, fueling a wave of negativity. Fans began questioning whether the updated version would retain any of the heart and soul of the original. To make matters worse, the press amplified her statements, framing them as a direct attack on the cherished romance central to Snow White. Rachel expressed disinterest in the love story, instead emphasizing that the new film would focus on themes of independence and empowerment. While some applauded this progressive approach, others felt it undermined the nostalgic innocence that made Snow White a timeless treasure. The backlash spread like wildfire across social media, with many fans vowing to boycott the film altogether. If Rachel's comments weren't enough, Disney soon found itself in yet another controversy. Early glimpses of the production suggested that the seven dwarfs had been replaced with a diverse group of magical creatures, an apparent attempt to avoid perpetuating stereotypes. However, this decision sparked a heated debate within the community of performers with dwarfism who felt excluded and sidelined.
The rice has to be body temperature, and if it takes too long to serve it, it's no longer body temperature. But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn how to get better.
Yes.
Better.
Yes.
And I showed that to executives at Disney.
Intro, yes. Some fans agreed with Disney's progressive move to update the Seven Dwarfs, but others, most notably actor Peter Dinklage, were less enthusiastic. Dinklage criticized the approach, calling it potentially hypocritical, which only added fuel to the fire. To make matters worse, rumors and alleged set leaks hinted at chaos behind the scenes. Some reports suggested the dwarfs were being reimagined as CGI characters, while others claimed that only one dwarf would be portrayed by a little person, with the rest appearing as human-sized companions. The conflicting information left fans confused and frustrated, especially those who wanted to see the 7 iconic characters preserved in their classic form. As these controversies snowballed, whispers began circulating about budget overruns and frantic script rewrites. Insiders speculated that Disney executives were starting to panic, worried they might have another Mulan-style flop on their hands, only on a much bigger scale. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler's repeated criticisms of anything she deemed archaic about Snow White further alienated fans. Her remarks made it seem like the new version was so determined to modernize the story that it might lose everything that made the original beloved. For many, it raised a troubling question. Was this still Snow White, or had it morphed into something unrecognizable?
It was like, Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on Crisis Watch. Not only did she play Getaway Car, she also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
After months of relentless outcry, many expected Rachel to either double down on her opinions or finally issue a clear, heartfelt apology. What came instead felt more like a carefully orchestrated statement from Disney's PR machine than an authentic reflection. In a solemn video, Rachel insisted she had been misunderstood, claiming she had no intention of disrespecting the legacy of Snow White. But the internet, ever keen at spotting insincerity, wasn't buying it. Fans flooded comment sections with criticism, labeling the apology as too little, too late, and clearly scripted. Some likened it to typical corporate damage control, devoid of real emotional depth. Instead of mending the rift, Rachel's statement seemed to widen it. The biggest issue? She offered no genuine acknowledgement of how her words had alienated fans. Every line felt meticulously crafted to pacify critics without taking responsibility, and that didn't sit well with anyone. The fallout was brutal. Meme pages mocked her video with sarcastic parodies, rewriting her statements into snarky apologies. Reaction videos flooded YouTube, dissecting every facial expression and tone shift, with creators accusing Rachel of merely trying to save face, and by extension, salvage a $200 million film teetering on the brink of disaster. So, the public's rejection of her apology only solidified the narrative. Rachel had become Snow White's biggest liability. And as the drama unfolded in the public eye, Disney faced an alarming reality. With a production budget rumored to exceed $200 million and marketing costs pushing the total even higher, if not closer to $600 million, to break even. And under normal circumstances, a Snow White remake might have seemed like a guaranteed hit. But controversy has a way of overshadowing even the most iconic properties. Then came the announcement.